So, we have new patch coming up soon. It's new patch time, everyone. It's always an exciting time of the year when we see new patches coming around because it means more content. And as we all know, everyone loves more content, right? Right. So, I'm going to have a quick little peruse through here. I'm going to see what exactly patch 33 is going to be bringing us, starting with new maps. Woo! Midnight Mansion coming to an advanced map near you. It's really nice getting more advanced maps because, I mean, the majority of maps do end up being in more of the intermediate sort of territory there, so it's always nice getting a little bit of a challenging one here or there. And then a community-based map, so the poll that ended up happening a few months ago, brought to light 3 new maps that the developers are going to be making, and it's also going to be coming in the new patch here, so we're going to be getting Covered Garden. Yippee! And if I remember correctly, the way that it works is that it ideally slides over, so the garden up on top here, planes can't see over the top of it or something like that. They can only see a very select part of it. We'll just have to wait and see exactly what it is like there, but I'm all for it, dude. It looks to be really exciting. Actually, wait, can I just That's better. Now my wide cam does not look immediately as scuffed there. Had to fix that really quickly. So, on top of that, we're going to be getting Goliath Doom Ship as well. So, that's going to be the Ace Paragon. We're going to have to wait and see. Apparently, it's going to be more based around the ability from Tsar Bomber rather than just a very, very, very big plane. It should do the very big plane stuff on top of having a really strong damaging ability, so excited to see what comes of that there. New trophy store items, the Sire mode. Best part of this update from what I've read so far. Never before have I realized that I needed something so much, except for the Banana Farmer banana costume. Even better. So, be on the lookout for those, and then we've got some other stuff in there, like new banners, all that fun stuff. New DDT balloon skin of a spider, and then just, again, other stuff, and then new CT store items. But let's be real, you probably haven't bought most of the CT stuff because my team is just busy trying to farm up for one damn banner. We're still trying to afford one banner, damn it! Alright, so probably one of the biggest changes is going to be this line of text right here. Paragon tower placement restricted to a maximum of 3 per game. Now, what this exactly means, we're not quite sure yet. I don't know if you're able to sell off a Paragon, put down another Paragon, and then put another 2 down on top of that there, or it means you can only put it down once. If you sell it off, you've only got 2 more placements of a Paragon down. I think the smarter way to do it is you're allowed to have 3 big ones on the field at any time. Can't do any more than that. I hope that it doesn't mean that you're restricting it to only enable you to allow to place down 3 Paragons in an entire game. I think it is a good change. I think it's very healthy for the state of boss balloons, where as more Paragons get added in, it should be a choice as to which Paragons you get rather than just getting all of them because they do very big numbers there and not for, particular reasons, right? I can't wait to be able to bypass the 3 limit by exiting the home and joining back. Yeah, that's also kind of the thing in my head there where I'm like, knowing Ninja Kiwi, they're probably going to end up struggling trying to police that, and it's probably just going to get broken by somebody just going, I just decided to exit out after selling it there and it resets, which is already something that boss balloon players do, but now they'll be incentivized to do it even more, so don't think that's a swell change. Next line of text. Contested territory, the number of steps required to use relic felt like too many, so we've just removed relic voting. Thank God! Thank God there's been so many times where my teammates have forgotten to remove their likes off of it there, and I've been stuck with relics that just don't work for the tiles, so I'm just glad that we've got access to whatever we want. Awesome change. Much needed. We've allowed Vice Mayors to set focus markers on the map. excellent change. Number of focus markers from 1 to 4, really important change. Most of the time in CT it's not just about trying to get one select tile, because realistically if you're attacking on all fronts there, it's not just going to be get flint tips, though realistically it will. It could be a lot of different relics there, a particular banner that you might want to target down there that's really critical for the enemy team. So just being allowed to just pinpoint more markers on the map there, even better. Contested territory matchmaking improved for better groupings based on activity and overall rank. Awesome change. I think noob stomping teams week after week there that just A, can't fight back, and B, just inevitably go, yeah, stuff this. It's just not fun. It's not very fun for both sides there. Well, I mean, probably. I don't know. Unless you're the type of person that enjoys just beating people down and feeling superior and be like, yeah, I'm the best! I'm the best! There's no competition here! Main menu CT icon now shows a pip displaying how many available tickets. Yes! Huge change! Dude, the amount of times they'll go into CD to just double check and see if I've got tickets or not, to only say you've got 10 more minutes to wait, and then I'll be, okay, I guess I've just gotta wait. Team banners can now be set on personal profiles as long as your team now owns the banner. Dude, as soon as I get the monkeys in space banner, oh, I'm gonna be rocking it. You already know. Dude, how could I miss out on the monkeys going, oh, doing the soy jack face? Bug fixes and general changes. I'm just going to skim over this really quickly here. Team Island should now correctly reflect your team color in CT. Always helpful. Resolved an issue where loading a save and restarting would not allow you to earn a black border from that run. This actually happened to me. So you might be looking at this line of text being like, but what does that even mean? This happened to me on my run through of Quarry the first time that I played through it, where I died later on there because I was trying to do a speed run of the map. Ended up resetting it there and just doing a for fun playthrough of it. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, what would be considered a black border run, ended up exiting out and getting a gold border. And it's not just the fact that that happened once, because I know for a fact that it still actually happens in this patch. So, thankfully, they've ended up fixing that up there. That's kind of a big deal for quite a few people. Me included. Yada 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 yada. Crashing on boss checkpoints, thank you! That's also been something where the game has been crashing like quite a bit. Where I've just been exiting out and then I've just been getting stuck in the loading screen of Doom, so always very nice. Paragon Tower should now be correctly sold when their supporting Arctic Wind platform is removed. So that's really interesting. So that means that the Paragons should not initially be getting a whole bunch of hide. Thought that was intentional. I was under the same impression there. I thought that if you've got a Paragon there and it's able to, it should just stand. It's a gigantic monkey. It should just be able to stand in the water, but apparently not. So that does actually open up strategies in terms of like no selling there and everything, where now you can make like a boomerang Paragon on the water there and like move the Arctic Wind, sell it off. I think that this more often than not is a good change rather than a bad or a negative one. Like, I feel like this is a buff rather than a nerf here, but it could go both ways, so hey. So here's some big ones. Embrittlement at absolute 0. No longer slow Moabs with permafrost as much as they do right now. So Absolute 0 has got a bug with pretty much every single Moab class tower where it slows just way too much. Absolute 0 is just way too good right now. So I'm glad that they ended up nerfing this here. Didn't realize that Super Brittle also ran into the same problem. For what it is, I think, again, this is a healthy change to the game. For as good as Absolute 0 is, it probably shouldn't be this good. Rejuvenation Potion will no longer reset Paragon cooldowns! Arrgh! 9! I mean, it's fair that they're doing this. It really shouldn't have been this way. But at the same time, it is kind of sick just going like with the Engineer Paragon there. So look, I get it, but at the same time, damn, how are you supposed to one-shot bosses now? I mean, I don't know, dude, I don't know. Alright, Dart Lucky. A Sharpshooter's crit occurrence didn't feel frequent enough. The overall attack rate has been increased, also to lead better into the tier 5's already high rate of fire. Along with all this, crossbow criticals have been standardized, thank you. Overall, with tier 5 criticals occurring more frequently in exchange for a slight reduction in base pierce to improve sharp shot cross path value. Fair. Because right now, the way that it works is that sharp shot cross path has theoretical more damage, but the chances of making it work are just so slim, because it requires like a very specific subset of things to end up happening, like you need a straight line map and all that fun business. So I think that this ends up making Crossbow Master, which is like, it's a fine tier 5 already, it does end up making it a little bit weaker. We have attack speed buff on Sharpshooter, which is massive. We have an attack rate buff, which is from 8 to 10 shots to every 10th shot. I love that change. Rather than just, you know, getting screwed over by unlucky crits there more often than not. Now it's just consistent. And Crossbow Master getting it every 5th attack there. Oh, so good. So good. So it makes sense that they have to reduce the pierce from Crossbow Master, simply because it's just, if you're giving it just extraordinary amounts of damage here, you kind of have to tone it down just a little bit. And then Apex Plasma Master excels generally too much for the cheapest Paragon and how easy it is to start scaling early degrees, so it is seeing a rate decrease from 0.3 per second to 0.35. I think this is pretty fair. It's by far generally the best Paragon in the entire game. It's cheap, it deals a lot of damage, it kind of outclasses a Boomerang and Ninja. There's just not a lot of reason to go into those Boomerang and Ninja Paragons in the early game there. I mean, so the way that it works currently right now is that there's two main contenders, right? You're thinking in your Dart Paragon, and you're thinking your NG Paragon. Engineer Paragon's typically used for just instantaneous kills there by just putting down 3 turrets, selling it off, or, you know, just continuously recurring turret explosions there. Very cool. Or Dart Paragon is just like generally you're just going to pump out a ton of DPS on the cheap, you know. And I think on, you know, for example, take this week's Lunarius. On a map like Hedge, Plasma Master is just by far, like, it's the best thing that you can be doing there outside of an Engineer Paragon. So it just makes sense to end up nerfing the attack speed a little bit. Heck, you probably could have nerfed the price just very slightly, but in reality it's already a fairly expensive sort of thing. Like, you're paying about $450,000 to try to get this thing up and running. So I think that, you know, not nerfing the damage output and just nerfing the attack speed here is probably the best way of doing it. But for what it is, I think it's a good nerf. I think it's a fair nerf more than anything. Taxzone. This one hurts me, like, as a speedrunner the most, right? This one is going to hurt quite a bit. So I'll just give you the rundown here really quickly. The Taxzone's all-purpose high single target and grouped DPS plus cleanup scales too well with so many options, as this is primarily intended to be the single target damage path, and that's the most fun way that we have, the most fun way to have it traded off damage. Wait, oh my god, I'm just... The Taxzone's all-purpose high single target and group DPS plus cleanup scales too well with so many options, as this is primarily intended to be the single target damage path, and that is the most fun way to use it. We have traded off damage for a bonus to mobs in order to nerf its unbuffed cleanup potential. So what this essentially means is it's really good into mobs. However, so let's take the speedrun for example. The usual routing that you'll do is that you'll do your pre-40 enables you to have a overdrive with an alchemist. You'll have a necromancer in there, And then from there, you'll just use that save up to get a Taxzone and carry you up to a Prince of Darkness. And then from there, you'll get your permacharge, and from that point on. But the problem is that in between you getting a Taxzone and that Prince of Darkness, you have to deal with round 63. Now, what usually ends up happening is that with a 420 Alchemist, with an Alchemist buff, you can end up clearing 63 no problem, right? You will beat 63 simply because you can just pump out enough damage. Even on just like single corner maps, you can end up pumping out enough damage to be able to clear 63, no problem. So now that puts into question rounds like 63 here, so you have to focus a little bit more on extra cleanup rather than just using Taxzone. So overall, I think this is a needed nerf, but one that definitely does hurt me as a player. Like, I recognize it because I use Taxzone a lot. Shouldn't affect bosses at all. It'll still be great against them. This is literally just in the case for chimps, pretty much, where Taxzone is just a little bit too good for how much cheaper it is than a lot of other options there. So, a needed nerf, one that I personally like, but at the same time, I have to admit that it's like, ugh, it kinda sucks. Ring of Fire should pick up on that area for cleanup use and general destruction, but it has more Pierce than it really needs in most scenarios, with other important stats sitting lower to compensate for high Pierce, so we've shifted this high Pierce into more requiring the Pierce crosspath in exchange for more base power and an overall buff. That's amazing. I think that is kind of a biggish deal there. So let's run through the stats really quickly. Attack cooldown has been reduced massive. That's a 50% buff right there to Ring of Fire attack cooldown. And they've reduced it from 60 to 40 and increased the damage. Amazing. That is pretty big for the tower. Because for the most part there, Overdrive often felt like it just did the job better. So now I feel like a combination of an Alchemist plus a Ring of Fire will actually do quite well into most heavy rounds there. I want to test this out against really heavy rounds like 63 and 76, because I think with the appropriate support there, this will be a very good cleanup tower. Inferno Ring's Meteor will now also follow target priority, since that sounds fun. So now you can put targeting priority on your Inferno Ring. Woohoo! Inferno Ring Moab damage has been increased from 4 to 8. The Moab bonus is reduced from 6 to 4. Makes sense there. As kind of when you get into Inferno Ring in the late game, it really does end up struggling quite a bit with Super Ceramic, so this ends up helping out a ton there. Ice Monkey! Arctic Wing never really gets used for its actual intended purpose, which would be cool. It would be very cool. Get it? Because it's ice? Get it? Because it's ice and it's cold? So now they've increased the aura from 40 to 60% there. I still think that you're pretty much never going to sit with Arctic Gwen there, and you'll always go up to Snowstorm because it just has, first of all, wider AoE there and everything. It just synergizes a lot better with a whole bunch of stuff, but now I guess that, you know, the save up for a Snowstorm is less awful. Alright, Glue Gunner. We want to achieve an effect with Balloon Solver's acid, burning through the layers quickly but not instantly. Though we haven't so far achieved a good balance of this with eliminating super ceramics in a timely manner, causing it to be far too impractical on any shorter map. To solve this while retaining the vision, we have boosted the ceramic damage up significantly, along with preventing this bonus from overflowing into the children layers. Interesting. So, Balloon Solver's dot ceramic bonus has been increased from 2 to 8 now. Big increase, that's massive. However, the dot's increased ceramic damage will not skip through the extra children layers upon breaking the ceramic layer. So it's still going to go from burning through that super ceramic layer quickly to then sticking around going through the rainbows and all of that fun business there. So, makes a little bit of sense. Sniper Monkey! After the lower tier Nurse Elite Sniper still remains a bit too good, even without considering its cash production. Yeah, so again, this is something that's just purely based around trying to nerf Chimp's viability here for Elite Sniper. The tower is still amazing, right? But again, it is just a little bit too good for it only costing like 13,000 in there. So now it just means that the save up here is going to be a little bit tougher. means that you might need to consider getting a few less upgrades. This also might affect your timing on maps like Bloody Puddles, where trying to hit 63 before you end up hitting Elite Sniper there can be a little bit of a problem. So, hey, I guess that's just a little bit more of a workaround that you have to do now. But hey, fair nerf. Alright, Monkey Pirates. So, I'm already excited. Monkey Pirates is great for the first couple of mobs, but with a long cooldown and it falls off very quickly after the point, we've decided to push it and the Pirate Lord's base stats up to feel more competitive, especially with possible Brickle synergy. So, essentially what this is here is that the problem right now is that Monkey Pirates, in terms of Moab damage, is just worse than Destroyer. Like, you are just better off going for a 3-1-0 Buccaneer, pairing it with an Alchemist. That will get you much further than a Monkey Pirates will currently. So, I like the fact that now Monkey Pirates should be one of the premier ways of killing Moabs. It should be good, right? You should have the ability to rope in a BFB there and not feel awful about the rest of the tower there, because it's kind of meh. It's alright, but like it needs a lot of setup to make work, so let's get stuck into it there. Monkey Pirates Grapes damage have been increased from 1 to 2. Massive! It's double damage, dude. Ceramic damage has also been increased from 1 to 2. Cannonball explosion damage has been increased from 2 to 3. Explosion Moab damage has been increased from 0 to 6. That's a big one. That's a big one, and they've slightly increased the price. I think that's fair. Because, I mean, with all of these extra little buffs here, I think a $400 price increase, I think that's more than fair. I like it. These are good changes. Helps make Monkey Pirates more of a option rather than just having one path for your Buccaneer and Chimps, and that's the only thing that you'll ever consider. So, for what it's worth here, good change. Very good change. Trade Empire farming power, even with the water requirement, feels like it takes off a little too easily, so the bonus cash it provides will now require full tier 4 flavored trades for the full benefit. Again, water farming right now is the best farming in the game. It is by far the easiest option for a lot of players. There is not really a consideration for other farming methods when you've got water farming. I think a lot of players have kind of been clamoring for this water nerf, and this just generally overall works in line with Ninja Kiwi wanting to kind of turn down the massive amount of farming that you can do in a game. Because I feel like a lot of players right now earn a little bit too much money. That's just the way that it is. So yeah, being able to kind of tune this down in line with farms, like it should be a viable option, but it shouldn't be something where it's just by far the best option, which is currently where it's at right now. So what they're doing is that they are, first of all, reducing that plus $20 to $15, and when applied to a flavored trades instead, it's now at $20 as well. This isn't a massive nerf, but this adds up over time. Again, now you can't just end up buying nothing but merchantmen. Now you want to get that flavored trades bonus as well to try to increase that beautiful cash stack. Also just missed here that Pirate Lord also getting a huge amount of buffs as well. Getting that grapes damage increased from 5 to 10. Massive. Holy moly. Ceramic bonus damage has been increased from 5 to 10, which has kind of been its biggest problem, where you would get into the early, like when you went from round 1s to 80, Pirate Lord felt amazing. But as soon as you hit round 81 and that free play scaling started to hit, Pirate Lord really struggled with ceramics. And they increased burn damage as well, from 1 to 9. So that's, wow, Pirate Lord might actually be a very serious contender for chimps right now. This actually seems to be perhaps one of the biggest buffs in this entire patch. Explosion damage has been increased from 2 to 5. Moab bonus damage from 0 to 10. Frags damage from 1 to 10. Frags Moab bonus increased from 0 to... Jesus Christ, this thing is going to be doing insane amounts of damage. Dude, screw the ability. You get an overclock on this here, and you get a, you just outfit this with a whole bunch of buffs here, and this thing is going to shred rounds. I still think it'll struggle in like the late game where it will struggle with Pierce a little bit, But for what it is right now, this is some very sizable buffs here. And the tower is cheap. The tower costs like 20k. So overall you pay like $27,000 to be able to get something of this strength here. This is going to be big. I'm calling it right now. This is going to be a big buff for the tower. Overall though, I think it needed it because without it, it's just not that great. To help you work towards the new Ace Paragon, we reduced the Spectre's late game ceramic weakness. Oh my god. They finally did it. They finally made Spectre not awful past round 80. Dude, you pay so much money for that tower. You pay so much money for a Spectre. And half the time, it just misses. It just misses. And it's so bad. It goes from never miss, which literally never misses, to it just missing every single tower. Like, you paid what, 28,000? You paid literally what you would for a tier 5 or a cheaper tier 5 here to get Spectre up. And sure, you get map wide damage, but it falls off past round 80. So thankfully they're giving it actual damage. They've reduced Spectre's late game ceramic weakness with an improved targeting for the bomb projectiles and a large increase to the bonus ceramic damage to help out later on. To change focus on these projectiles, we also shifted damage around for the darts to deal with single target damage, with bombs providing ceramic AoE cleanup. I think that's kind of a fair change. It should be good as a cleanup tower because that's what it is originally, right? Like, the way that it originally ends up working more often than not is that Never Miss is used as a cleanup tower in the mid game there that struggles a little bit against Moabs, right? Like, you're not going to be clearing round 80 there with just Never Miss. Yeah, something like this here, I think, kind of reinforces that focus. So they have a weaker homing effect. I think that means a stronger homing effect. I'm not sure if they've I don't know, because this sounds like a nerf. I hope it's not. They've increased dart damage from 2 to 3. They've reduced bomb damage from 3 to 2. But the bonus ceramic damage is now 2 to 4. I think this is a great change. They've also propped up Flying Fortress's value in the late game, and you can realistically afford it. So following on from this, the single target damage focus change, we've added a large Moab damage bonus to the Flying Fortress's darts. Yeah, that's just a great change. Overall, I mean, you know, Flying Fortress does end up kind of falling off a little bit in those later stages of the game. Like, you can realistically afford it by the 90s there. And if it's still on a longer map, you'll still struggle against DDTs. For something that you end up saving up 90k there, you should probably be able to win the game with it. Heli Pilot. So Heli Pilot raises rotors. Don't scale with higher tiers, so improvements have been made specifically to that attack for the Dart Ship and Apache Prime. Support Chinook use is too niche outside of farming for the high cost, so the upgrade cost along with that effective cash gain from the ability usage has been lowered to retain the same farming while improving the niche use. Dandraft has more general use throughout the game and scales better than more the expensive Mob Shove upgrade, though they do see use, so the price of these upgrades has been swapped around. And faster darts will now increase the attack distance of heli darts to assist with cluttering issues where large numbers of helis will push each other away from nearby targets. Usually not a problem there, but hey. So, Razor Rotor's damage on Apache has been buffed up there, as well as Pierce. That's a fine change. Not usually something that you're all too concerned about more often than not, but again, it does make a difference there. So this rewards good micro more than anything. And Rotors from Prime has been increased, as well as the Pierce. Again, it's a good change. And then they've reduced support Chinook and the farming with it there as well. Again, I think this makes just getting up to special populations just that little bit easier there, especially in Chimps, where that little save up that you have to do, trying to use support Chinook as a save up really ends up being a problem. Because support Chinook is kind of just this huge block of money that you have to pay for not a huge upgrade, and then you have to also on top of that save up another 30k for special populations, which is just very difficult and not really needed. So again, great change. This to me is a huge change. However, I've been advocating for the longest time that downdraft, what it is and how good it is like way too cheap, and that they could easily buff this up here to like $3,500, $4,000. So I'm really glad to see this nerf coming through, because downdraft for what it is like, even after they ended up nerfing it last patch there, it's still way too good. I think a small little price increase is needed, and then Moab Shove again is like just a little bit too expensive, so I like swapping around the price here. Mortar Monkey, hard for the balloons to have the biggest one to exist so close in the same price range when they filled the same role, but with the biggest one it's being simply better and more versatile. So I've revamped the biggest one to fill a better role, but for a higher cost. Fair. So what they've done is they've retained the biggest one, the big one damage bonus strike to +1 damage there. The biggest one price has now been increased by $8,000. So this is a big price increase. But I don't think this affects it too much, simply because usually on maps that are very focused on having the biggest one down, like for example like your spillways, your moon landings, all that sort of stuff there, the price gap from a big one to the biggest one there is not usually something that you'll end up struggling with too much. I think that this will be like a little bit of just like an extra tacked on sort of thing there. I do think that this means that, you know, the kind of flex runs that people do where they're like, oh, I'm so good at the video game, look at me, that'll be a little bit tougher now. However, you know, maps like Bloody Puddles, Muddy Puddles, that sort of thing, that's where this price increase will really hurt the hardest. However, the price increase, you now get to be able to stun Moabs. To be able to stun them for a small period here. It's not going to be as much as main Moab, so 0.3 seconds. DDTs get stunned a little bit here for 0.2 seconds, and ZOMGs just very incredibly briefly. Artillery Battery's special stun bonus is completely ineffective against targets which are impossible to stun, so it is receiving a small buff bonus to those targets to compensate. So, artillery battery bonus damage to bads and bosses +4. That might, oh man, does that mean that artillery battery spam now is a legitimate CT strategy? It's kind of expensive. It's like a 7,000 investment into it there. However, that is a lot of damage. You might be able to see something like that coming through. Pop and Orb now grants all other X4X mortars bonus damage to bads and bosses to 6. So essentially, Pop and Orb now becomes a artillery battery lord. That's pretty cool. Other similarly priced decamo options are able to decamo DDTs, so Signal Flare feels like a lesser choice here, having this basic decamo utility locked behind a monkey knowledge. They've finally done it. They have finally given us the ability to decamo DDTs with Signal Flare. I think this is a massive change, and one that has been well needed for such a long time. And to me, I never really could make sense of this. You know, why does tower that costs so much here end up not being able to decamo DDTs? Just for what reason? So now they've finally done that there. That's awesome. And now they allow Shattering Shells to remove fortifications from DDTs. I wish this was a thing in a chimps mode, but hey, you take what you can there. And now Shattering Shells dot damage has been increased from 1 to 5. Not awful. And the dot damage per tick remains at 5 for Blue Incineration. Those are some sneaky, that's a sneaky little buff in there. But that's kind of big, because Shattering Shells had this already really good utility use where it could get rid of all the fortifications off of, you know, all of these BFBs, all of those Moabs there as well. So yeah, giving it just that little bit of extra damage on top of that as well, Shattering Shells suddenly do be looking a little bit better of a option. I mean, I thought it was already kind of a mainstay, but I think it's even better now. Darling Gunner. So Rocket Storm being cheaper than its tier 3 when the tier 3 is more of a decent stepping stone into the good tier 4 didn't quite make sense. So these prices have been swapped. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's not even that much money though, right? It's just, oh yeah, it's just $150 between the two of them. Oof! Huge change there. I mean, it's not really that big. Honestly, like, Hydro Rocket Pods is kind of meh, and Rocket Storm is really good as an ability there, so. Buckshot Pierce has been increased to help it make its attack cut through more of a chunkier hit. Also, I think this is kind of a big change as well. Has been increased from 4 to 6. Yeah, this is kind of a big change because Balloon Area Denial System is already a really good tower to end up having as defense. I think increasing, I mean, tier 3, the Buckshot there was kind of awkward to use, but the tier 4 BDAS is really strong. So yeah, just being able to make that save up there into the $13,000 tower a little bit easier, pretty darn good. Focus firing's distance bonus on 203 due to how it is set up with projectile speed drop off was a little bit less than 25%, realistically closer to like 20%, so this tower's been increased to go to roughly 30% increase. It's alright, like, but the thing is that you'll pretty much always go 024 with Dartling anyway, so I don't think this ends up mattering a ton. Wizard Monkey, now these are some huge changes right here. So let's get stuck into, so I already see Wall of Fire here, and let's just start this by saying that Wall of Fire is like too good. It's really too good. Wall of Fire right now is one of the best save up towers in the entire game. There is just no two ways around it. So I think it definitely needs a bit of a nerf, right? Wall of Fire's exceptional tier 2 power needs to be moved around for improved cross-pathing, along with a slight nerf to Phoenix as it is currently performing too well. Understandable, honestly. Both of these upgrades are shifting some of their power into the Dragon's Breath, so it can stand as more than just a buff to Wall of Fire and a stepping stone to Phoenix. Shimmer is prone to missing a lot of camo balloons due to the low attack rate. We do want it to be slower than other decamos to account for the larger radius and a better tier 5, so we're making the radius benefit more noticeable and lowering the price. Can intellectually acknowledge that Wall of Fire was too good but USADA got nerfed? Yeah, about that, D-Breath is insane. I already thought, like, before we even get into the changes here, that D-Breath was really, really good. I thought that D-Breath as a tower was just actually amazing, and that, you know, it kind of struggled against mobs there, but like it was still a very legitimate save up option there and everything. It costed just about the right amount. Wall of Fire PS per tick has been cut down to 10. The PS per tick on 021 here has been reduced back to what it was before you got the upgrade there. The damage tick rate has been reduced to pretty much, I think that's 33% more if I'm mathing correctly right now. I'm not good at this. So that is absolute, that, like, out of all of those things here, these changes, oh, and spawn rate as well has been reduced. These changes here, holy moly, these changes are massive. This really like sticks a dagger into the side of Wall of Fire here. This tower is nowhere near going to be as good as it was before. Compensate for this, however, is that 120 Wall of Fire has had its duration increased, and it now no longer auto targets but gains a target marker. So those two changes here, those two changes are big compensations, because the way that it works right now is you don't really have much of a reason to go for a 120 Wall of Fire, because first of all, the PS was just better, right? You just had better PS available on your Wall of Fire, and that's typically what you wanted your Wall of Fire to do. You just wanted Wall of Fire to be able to gobble up a large amount of balloons there and be able to just roast them effectively. So by nerfing the PS and the damage tick rate here, this really hurts Wall of Fire. But now that you've got an increased duration on here, this is the way that you want it, right? I think overall, very necessary changes, but damn, that really hurts Wall of Fire. Now, Dragon's Breath base damage has been increased from 1 to 2. Now, this target fires fast, right? This is already going to be pumping out a ton of damage there. Now you're getting what is quote-unquote the OG Wall of Fire when you go up to a Dragon's Breath here again. And the Wall of Fire's PS tick has been increased from 15 to 20 there. On an OG one, massive. These are massive Dragon's Breath buffs, but you end up paying $3,000 for it. So honestly, kind of neat. They've increased Summon Phoenix's price there, an extra $500, and reduced the PS. I'd say that the PS is kind of the big dealio here. The price increase is negligible because of the Dragon's Breath buffs now, but the PS definitely means that trying to save up to your whatever tower, whatever tier 5s you're trying to go for, means that it's a little bit harder to try to go for that now. We have increased the radius of Shimmer and the price bonus. Now, if I'm reading this correctly, this doesn't mean that the Wizard has an increased radius here. This just means that the area of effect of the Shimmer effect is larger, because otherwise I think they would specifically say that range has been increased. Have to wait and see on that one though. And then the price reduction by another $200, that's always nice. Kind of makes up, yeah, for all of this bit here, hurting the speed runs that I do, and all of this right here, yeah, I think, you know, just being able to get a nice $200 price reduction on the towers you use, you're like, yeah, we take those. Alright, Super Monkey. Ultra Vision is a lackluster crosspath, with so many other ways to get camo detection cheaper and for more towers. Anti-Balloon is expensive, but as a quite unused tower, it feels like it doesn't really live up to the Super Monkey name for that cost, so now the ability is seeing a cooldown decrease. We feel like Legend of the Knight's base tower is more usable now after recent buffs, so without a total need to lean entirely on the passive ability fuse, we're increasing this cooldown to prevent some of the issues. Anti-Balloon cooldown has been reduced, 45 to 30 seconds, massive buff. Ultra Vision now grants bonus damage, camo balloons, +1 there. That's always nice, just being able to tack that on top of there. It means that rounds like 76, which would usually be a bit of a problem for something like a Sun Temple, now becomes slightly easier, but it also means that a 024 Tech Terror now also gets just that little bit better there as well. And then Legend of the Night cooldown has been increased from 120 seconds to 180 seconds. I mean, yeah, sure, whatever. Alright, Ninja. Sticky Bomb feels like it's a very strong spot right now in a lot of situations, though Flash Bomb isn't good enough without a great deal of support leading into it. This shift should open up challenge viability, especially for in ABR. So they're reducing it. Wow, Flash Bomb got a huge price reduction and it got pumped into Sticky Bomb instead. I actually really like Flash Bomb as an upgrade, but I thought it was like way too expensive for where it is right there, so I like this change a lot. Transforming Tonic has always had a large struggle with Pierce. Rather than directly throwing into the base Pierce, we have added cross-pathing Pierce and rate benefits for transformation enjoyers to now choose between acidic mixture dip, stacking from multiple alchemist stalling tactics to effectively lower the use of other lead counter options in a way we didn't like, so the maximum stacks here without permabrew has been reduced considerably. That's kind of a shame, because I remember watching a ISAB video where the idea was that you wanted to try to stack 200 stacks onto your BEZ, which doesn't have lead pop there as well. This is a bit of a shame there, but oh well. So Transforming Tonic 140 Pierce has been increased, always a nice change. And the attack speed on 041 there has been slightly decreased there as well. Always nice. Top Path Heart of Thunder on the Druid. Doesn't scale well with tiers for an upgrade that is such niche use. It generally feels lacking, so it is seeing general power improvements across the board to upgrades that generally incorporate this tack. Druid of the Jungle's Vine feel too strong for this already. Fair, very fair. Druid of the Jungle is already an incredibly strong option. The quality of life, the tier 4's Jungle Bounty Druid will now gain targeting options with the Global Vine attack. So this is really nice. So what usually ends up happening here is that you kind of get screwed over more often than not if you're using an 040, because it just won't target the first balloon down the track. So now if you have one balloon one option targeting strong or one option targeting first, that suddenly becomes really strong and a reason to end up doing this. So you ended up usually buying up a 250 later on anyway, because I mean, heck, just extra damage for that cheap, pretty nice. So seeing this change come through here, big fan. So they've increased the base damage from 1 to 2. They've increased the ball lightning damage from 1 to 3 on both instances there. And now Superstorm got some pretty massive buffs up to 10. And Avatar of Wrath applies its full RBU damage bonus scaling to Heart of Thunder. Ooh. So 025 will now be perhaps, might be better. It might be better at clearing out high density waves now. Might be incredibly strong. So 025 now deals better single target damage, so it's better against the BAD. But 205 there is suddenly looking to be like, because it can be a little bit shaky on some maps, 205 might be really strong. So X4X Jungle Bounty's Vine can now follow target priority. This makes me happy, chappy. This makes me a very happy chappy. Good changes, good changes. Okay, so X4XX feels like it needs a small boost in order to really start feeling worth upgrading to, rather than getting multiple tier 3s in the late game due to the improved spike mines Pierce not being needed super ceramics here. So they've increased the fortified damage from 1 to 3, and the explosions from 2 fortified to 1 to 3 there. Just good changes. I think Spiked Mines, while it's like really good on Ravine there, it does end up struggling on other maps, and it is just generally overall better to go for just multiple spike balls there. So honestly, I think this change is kind of needed. Doesn't end up breaking the tower, but it's just an overall great change. Engineer! Mob offense top path lacks for a certain DPS tower, quite complex to use. Sprockets already feels underwhelming, so we're seeing a buff here. Carrying up to tier 4, the 3-2 Oak Crosspath will now be able to double dip on the fortified and mob damage bonuses that it gains. Kind of massive. That's pretty big. Cleansing Foam is now seeing a slight tweak to help it be more viable as a main camo detection. This mainly focuses on some issues at AVR, allowing it to catch quick initial camo spawns. This is also a problem that you have in boss balloons here as well, like for on some rounds where you'll shoot the camo down immediately and then you'll just see like 4 purples go by and you're like, oh well, it's fine. I didn't want to catch those anyway. So they're allowing Sprocket's buff to increase by 10% here from 40 to 50%. 1-2-0 sentries now benefit from both of the Moab and fortified damage bonuses on one target. If that target is a fortified Moab, great change. And that cleansing foam attack now gains 1 second of 4 times fire rate on round start. Thank God. You no longer have to micro this thing to oblivion and back to just try to make sure that you catch everything. This is a much needed change. Thank you. Thank you. So, Gwen, 3 big hero updates here as well to go along with these balance changes. So, to wrap up the balance changes that we've seen thus far, for me, these are all like a solid thumbs up, right? Like this is, if you're talking about things that I'm looking at here, I'm going, yeah, I like these balance changes. This to me makes a lot of sense. So I want to see, do they manage to improve some of the heroes? See, all of these 3 heroes, for context, I made a tier list of where I rate all the heroes as well. These 3 were at the bottom. So I genuinely feel like all 3 of these heroes here, I feel like Gwen, Azili, Adora, need a little bit of help in the game right now because they do have their niche usage here, but there are just other better heroes in the game. For Gwen, she's a little average all around these days with the other heroes overtaking in the past years. Gwen is seeing some improved quality of life, synergization, and extra juice to the initial hit of Firestorm, since currently the ability is not great and the first impact does very little compared to the dot. So Cocktail of Fire now gains a target selection point. That's actually kind of big. One of the big things with Gwen is that Gwen's level 3 is actually really strong, but it was random. It felt, if it wasn't random, it felt random. So being able to just chuck down this here on a specific point, beautiful. Level 5 Pyrotechnics Expert. All Ring of Fire, Signal Flare, and Dragon's Breath now gain 10% rate and radius, along with high tiers but not sub towers. So Dragon's Breath again, getting a bit of a buff up here. All of this sort of thing here, like Signal Flare, this is all of these buffs. These aren't negligible, right? These are like actual sizable buffs. They really didn't want to give Wall of Fire this buff though. I think for good reason as well. Like they want to gut Wall of Fire right now. Wall of Fire should not be as strong for a tier 2 as it is. And then they're doing the same thing for level 18 Pyrotechnics Master. It's increased from 10 to 20% there. Firestorm initial damage has been increased from 2 to 5, and the initial mob damage has been increased from 2 to 20. Wow, those are big buffs, man. And then the level 20 has also been getting some major buffs up there. So that's big. Those are some big Gwen buffs. I think those are going to be some really good. That means that Gwen now actually like pretty decent hero in my eyes. I now want to explore Gwen a little bit more in gyms. Azili. Azili's niche use is an extremely strong spot right now. That's fair. I think that more often than not, Azili does kind of have this really specific niche, but that does make it harder for her to be used. So we shouldn't really buff her. But anyway, Heartstopper and Sacrificial Totem both feel too limited in possible synergies. So this is kind of one of those things where Azili is not really a hero until you end up hitting like level 10. And then Azili actually starts to become like half decent, right? So I like being able to give Azili just a little bit more in the early games. But having some quality of life improved, and Heartstopper will now additionally allow all towers to damage purple balloons to open up more combination options and give it more reason to use it. So that's amazing, by the way. Looking at this here, this is a change that they enabled in battles too, to enable Azili to actually have some use. But it turns out Azili's really good in that game, but not so much in this one. It's pretty much going to give immunity to purple balloons, whether they regrow or not. You can remove immunity for that duration. Has been increased from 6 to 10 seconds, and the cooldown's been reduced as well. Awesome. So Sacrificial Totem now gives targeting, gives additional pierce, so, you know, Azili is really trying to be the wizard lord, right? So it already gives a necromancer buff now, and is giving additional pierce and attack speed to wizards. Hey man, that's really cool. And yeah, I think everything considered here, these are just nice little Azili changes. You don't want to go too much in on what Azili is already really strong at, which is like killing mobs. Azili kills mobs really well. These changes don't really affect Azili, but they're really niche situations which actually enable more options now. So I always think that sort of stuff is nice. Good changes. Adora feels like the perfect target to fill the current hole heroes have, so we have no real dedicated fortification buster. Among Us in the hero lineup, get it? Get it? Sussy? A bit sussy, Rohan? So giving this to Adora will hopefully allow for some new unique cases the others don't fill. So they've reduced the cooldown from Long Arm of Light. It was like way too long in the first place here. Gains increased fortification damage, +2. Nice. Main attack to Fortified increased to 3, 19 to 4 there. Ball of Light gains increased to Fortified Balloons, +3. Fortified damage, yeah. So these are all great, these are all amazing changes here. Again, Adora is kind of fine in the first place here, but is like a really good late game hero, so I think all of these changes just enable Adora to do a lot better. And last but not least, we've got Brickle here. We've increased the main handgun damage. Yeah, this is always nice stuff here. And then Explosion is no longer blocked by line of sight. And then last but not least here, Contested Territory Relic Knowledge. They're nerfing and buffing up some of these here. So right now, like some of the big ones here, Camo Trap is like way too strong. Camo Trap is like too good because it just enables you to clear off an entire round without having to use camo ever. So they're nerfing it. Awesome. Yeah, Flint Tip's also kind of one of those big ones there, which is just overall just a little bit too good. So they're slightly nerfing the tick rate there, so it takes a little bit longer. Buffing up Camouflage from 1 to 3, awesome. Hero Boost from 10 to 15%, great, going the distance, pretty meh. And Sabotage, goes without saying the bigger balloon Sabotage was not intended to apply the boss balloons, and this has been resolved. So there you go. I mean, I all round think that there is not a single change in this entire spread, this entire list here, that I do not agree with. I think this patch so far on paper looks amazing. So I just want to give a shout out to the balancing team for balloons. These great changes here, and I'm really excited for patch 33 now. So yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll do more of this. Thanks. Bye. Bye.